In today's episode, I talk with Coach Aron of the Alderson Broaddus men's team. If you like our interviews, I would truly appreciate it if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel, or if you're more of a podcast person, subscribe and review us on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on all the various social media channels at discover_CS. Thanks. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Bassoff from Alderson Broaddus University in West Virginia. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. You know, it's I grew up in Ohio, so I'm familiar with a lot of the great schools down there in West Virginia. A lot of people don't know how many awesome D2 programs are out there. So let's introduce them to yours. But well, to get started, let's talk about the recruiting side of things. When is it that you're really starting to talk to players and start building out a class? What year in high school? How does that work?
Well, for this year, we're starting right now. Me taking over the program in August, I came in and wanted a chance to probably evaluate our players before we went forward and started making decisions on, what positions we were going to be looking for and how we were going to recruit, because that for me dictates a lot of, direction I go as far as recruiting goes. So now we kind of picked up a little bit more steam in the recruiting process, and right now for what we are aware of and everything like that, we have been targeting certain positions, on the field that we know we're going to need. For next season. So hopefully in the future, we'll be able to kind of catch up and be able to start recruiting for the following year's class in the spring. So what would be the junior year of those players? For now we are recruiting for the class of 2023. And hopefully we will be done in time enough to at least start identifying for the spring to look at the class of 2024. So
Okay.
that's kind of that would be our timeline.
How many inbound contacts would you say you get from potential recruits in an average week or average month?
I would say, especially right now, I mean, it's definitely picking up on that end. So I would say we probably get between 15 or 20 a week, contacts
Okay.
from players.
And what is it that you like to see from a player in that first outreach that they make to you?
Well, I definitely kind of a professional email, not kind of a, email that you would write to your friend or something like that. We get some of those, hey, coach, blah, 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 like to have the time and the thought put into it as far as, they're giving us good information. And then I think it's also good, the personalization of the email to the specific school shows me that they've done a little research on the program and know what it's about, instead of it's not just a simple copy and paste and throwing it out there to everyone and anyone. So and definitely I look at every video that comes across. So if a player sends me their information, I'm going to look at it, and the ones that are you can tell have that kind of professional touch to it are going to be ones that I'm going to be a little more interested in, because those are the type of players we want to bring into our program.
Okay. Now, in terms of when you're out on the recruiting trail, what are some of the tournaments, that are kind of must hit events for you in terms of getting to watch players?
Uh, Tournaments that are either going to be have like some of the best teams in the area. I plan on going to in November the Delco Showcase, which is in the Philly suburbs, and then in that same weekend there's another good tournament too as well in at Cedar Stars Complex in Tinton Falls, New Jersey. So those are two good tournaments on that weekend that are happening. And those are more obviously regional type of tournaments. Also the tournaments that draw in teams from other areas that we may not have been able to look at. I should also mention that my assistant is going to be at the Raleigh tournament in the beginning of December in conjunction with the Final Four for the Division One. So that gets a little bit more kind of a national tournament too, where you're pulling teams in from all over the place. And then also I will be down in December at the National League games in Orlando. So again, that's an opportunity for us to see teams that we maybe normally wouldn't see, which is a nice event to have. And then Jefferson Cup, is a good tournament again to see teams from other areas that we don't normally see. So those are the kind of tournaments that, I like, either the ones that are regional, in the sense of areas that are good to recruit from and are close to our school. I'm going to try to make I think the Columbus Crew have a combine too as well. That's kind of more just like a invitation, I think, type of deal. It's not a team, but it's individual players. But yeah, I mean, the areas that are within 4 or 5 hours of our school, and they have a really strong regional tournament or good tournaments for us to go to. The tournaments that are stronger nationally, like the Jefferson Cup and the National League, we'll go to those events in Raleigh, just so we can see players from other areas that we may not have seen too. And that kind of covers all of our bases. Penn Fusion has a good tournament in the end of February, as long as it doesn't snow. But they tend to bring in really strong teams. So that's generally what we target as far as recruiting events. We'll go to the high school all-star game for West Virginia,
Okay.
Too, as well, to see if we can identify some of the top players in West Virginia.
Okay. How about camps? Do you guys do your own camps? Does you and your staff work other camps? Do camps fit into your recruiting at all?
Yeah, we will definitely do some ID camps for players that are kind of, maybe that we haven't seen play and they just want to be considered for the team, for sure. We'll probably try to squeeze one in before Christmas, maybe sometime in November, and then also have one in the early spring for the 2023s that haven't, had a chance to sign. And that's also obviously a place for us to start with identifying 2024s. And we'll go to other ID camps. Yeah, I mean, if we're invited, in the past, I got invited to like the West Virginia University ID camp, and I went to that. And those are good events, to go to as well. And if we're invited, whether to work or not, we'll go up and we'll watch them.
Okay. Now, looking at your guys' roster, you got a decent amount of international players. So how does international recruiting fit into your whole mix?
Well, I mean, we definitely consider internationals. Obviously, that's a big part of not just our school, but also our conference too. If you look at Charleston and Deany, and then also Notre Dame College, the top 3 teams in our conference, those have international players. So they're obviously pretty accessible. I have contacts that I've built up through the years I've coached, so I get in contact with those people, and and from there, I've compiled like a list of recruiting agencies I follow on YouTube. So I'm always on there looking at their new videos that they're putting up. So we definitely have a lot of access. And now there's the I think they're called the International Alliance, which is like a conglomerate of 5 or 6 recruiting agencies working together, and they've kind of streamlined the process for a lot of coaches, which is nice. There's one out of Iceland called Soccer and Education USA. There's one in Italy called College Life Italia. There's one that is more out of Spain. It's called AGM. And then there's one in Germany called Sports Scholarships. And then there's one called C USA, and they're more Scandinavian. So they've all come together, and what they do is they have one website, one app you can go on, and you can search by whatever the graduation year is, the position you're looking for, and all these different things. And it has all of their players from all 5 of those recruiting agencies together, which is really nice. It
Yeah.
makes it a lot easier to do. So there's a lot of things that, you can do as far as the recruiting internationally, that lets you know what's out there and available.
Okay. Well, whether it's at camp or a tournament or anything, kind of what is your hierarchy of things that you're looking for in a player? What kind of ticks those boxes, whether it's on the field or off the field stuff?
Well, I think the first thing on the field would be their technical ability. We do try to play, a pretty technical type of a game. I'm looking at, how they're playing and what level they're playing at too as well, because I think that's a pretty good indicator as far as, how they'll adapt to the college game. And that's one thing I would encourage all recruits to do as I'm watching all these videos of recruits coming in, is to make sure that they put on the highest level that that they compete against. That's really valuable. Putting in, against competition where you have a lot more time and space to do things is really going to leave question marks in a, coach's head, just because at the college level, time and space is definitely valuable, and it's, you don't get as much of it. And so that lets a coach know whether you truly can, play at the next level, and some of the things that you might be able to get away with because of those things. If you rely on them for success, I think for me as a coach, it leaves me kind of a question of if they're going to be able to adapt and be able to do it differently at the college level without that same, time and space of things that they're trying to do. So, that's kind of how I'm evaluating players. And that's not to say that we completely rule those guys out, but we definitely, you know, try to get another look at them to see if it's just a question that they haven't given us that video at a high enough level. So the technical ability, the decision making, keeping it simple. We're not looking for players that are necessarily going to try to do, so much on their own all the time. I appreciate the simplicity of doing things. If a player does things simple over and over again and executes well, that's going to stand out just as much as that one, major play that they make or they've been trying to make. And then I would say, as far as just, when we talk to them and we get to know them, obviously we're watching them, how they interact. If they're at a tournament, I'll even watch players and how they warm up. Tells me, what type of environment they're used to being in, how serious they are, how they interact, obviously on the field with their teammates, off the field too, with the coaches and their teammates. So if I'm going to a tournament itself, I'm definitely looking at, all of those things. And if we're in a conversation and we're talking together, just that they are mature and they can carry a conversation and things like that are all indicators. How well they follow up as well, in the process, because the whole process, just because we tell a recruit we're interested in them and we think they're good enough to play at the next level, doesn't mean that that stuff doesn't factor in as we go along too, as well. Because once you get here, we want guys that can lead themselves, they can take care of themselves, and that we don't really have to manage.
Sure, sure. Well, let's shift gears, talk a little bit about the school. Um, I know you've just been there since August, but I know you've got a lot of history in that conference. So,
Yep.
can you tell me, we can go to the website, click around, and learn a lot, but kind of give me
Right.
some inside scoop. What are some awesome things about your school that I might not just learn about on the website?
Okay. Well, we have a great facility. And, it's a great environment to be playing in. You really have to play on a turf field in this area. We probably would have had about 5 or 6 games canceled this year if we didn't, and that would have been hard to make it up. So it almost becomes a necessity, even though I like a really good grass field. I just think in this area, we had the turf redone just this past year. So we're playing on brand new turf. And that's awesome too as well, because that plays really nice. And we get to play night games because we have lights, so I think it's a great environment to play in. And as we build the program and get more and more competitive, I think that will help us as well. Even though it's in a smaller area, Philippi is, we really don't get a ton of, oh, there's nothing to do and things like that. So I think that there's enough to do close by in Morgantown, Pittsburgh, other areas, that the players are not, necessarily lacking for that type of, that part of the college, experience. So most of our, and I think that's also in large part because most of our population, even though the school's a little bit smaller, lives on campus. So you have a little more community sense than a school. Even though a state school might be bigger, not all the kids might live on campus and things like that. So I think that benefits us, that all of our players and most of our students live on campus too. And the support amongst athletics team is really good. We get a lot of different sports coming down and watching us play, which is nice. There's not really like that divide that you might think that there is between sports. We get the football team coming down, volleyball team, lacrosse, all these different sports, and we go out and we support them. So I think that's also a strength of Alderson Broaddus, is that you get that support amongst other athletic teams too.
No, that's great. Well, you know, parents, their first question is usually around dollars and cents, so I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, uh, just to give me an overview of kind of the cost and financial aid situation there, what academic scholarships are available, athletic money, kind of what's an average student athlete walking into uh, when they go to school there.
Uh, I The average, I would say, and we have some good aid, even non-athletically, which is nice. And that is one of the reasons why, probably in comparisons to some of the other schools, even like a Davison Elkins and a Charleston, you see more American players on our roster because of the aid that we do give away, for even guys that are not getting soccer scholarship money. And that allows us to be able to go out and recruit some of those American players that are pretty good academically and maybe have a decent need as far as what their financial aid is. And I would say in general, that the packages are going to range between 25 and 30,000 aid money, and then you're looking at the school being 42. So it's a good average, I believe. And, it generally, the recruiting part actually um, isn't, I wouldn't say, really, really hard for us to be able to, get players in, just because of what you look at on our roster. We're not like, we're not struggling to get the numbers in that are interested in our school and getting good financial packages.
Okay. Can you can you walk me through kind of what a typical week looks like in terms of, meals, practice time, class time, kind of your game cadence, just I know there's no such thing as an average week, but
Right, right.
but what one might look like if I'm a student coming
Sure.
in. What's that like?
Well, our conference generally plays on Wednesday and Sunday, and right now we have 16 conference games. So you're talking about, that's pretty much our schedule for games throughout this season. So what that looks like as far as the schedule goes, if we started and we played a game on a Sunday, a Monday we would have practice, generally in the early evening, after football. So that's when our usual practice time is. So players have, our classes do go just a little bit later. So that's nice, kind of, works out. Some classes don't end till 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it would be hard to get kind of a, afternoon practice in. So we will, have practice at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and the players are obviously getting dinner before that. So they have their classes during the day, and then also, get their meals, breakfast and lunch, and then there's that time where they can get some work done before practice too, if they need to. And then we don't end so late at night that they can't get to that work again, because we're usually ending around 8 or 9 o'clock at night for our practice. So there's definitely time for them to come back and to do schoolwork if they need to, and other things. And then we practice on Monday and Tuesday, same setup. Wednesday we play. Thursday's usually our day off. And then Friday, obviously, we're back practicing. Saturday kind of depends on football, whether there's a home football game or not. But we practice at some point on Saturday before the game on Sunday. But that's kind of what a schedule looks like for us.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the team then. So, is there a typical roster size that you like that you're trying to hit each year?
We definitely like to keep the roster around 30 players.
Okay.
This year, especially right now, we're dealing with a lot of injuries. So 30 might seem like a lot to people, but in actuality, once you start factoring in injuries and other things that happen, right now we're at a point with our injuries where we can barely play 11v11 in our training. So I think 30 is a good number. And we generally like to carry 3 goalkeepers and then 27 field players. And the recruiting process for us is the full picture when we're looking at our roster, and even looking at maybe some areas that we need to improve our depth with. If we feel like in that training process, hey, we need to be a little bit stronger in our defense. So, we'll focus our attention, on bringing in, a strong group of defenders to make sure that our training sessions are very competitive and they're not too easy, for the guys. So, we definitely look at every part of our roster. We're not just, taking players in just to take them and give them a roster spot. We're working hard to, identify players in different points in their development. Some guys might be able to play right away, but those players that, even if they can't start or play right away, we still are looking for them to be competitive, and then to be strong so that they can develop. And then that also breeds that competition that we need in training as well. If that gap is there, then it's really a struggle. So we definitely, and my assistant and I have talked about that a decent amount during this season, just continuing to improve the roster top to bottom and get like 30 very strong players in.
Okay. You mentioned staff. So, how big is your staff? What role does everybody play? What does that kind of look like?
I have one assistant, and then we have a athletic trainer that works with just the men's and the women's team. And he's a former soccer player at the college level, which is nice. He's done an awesome job for us. He's available throughout the day for our guys to get their treatment. He's got a great setup, gives the guys a schedule that he's going to be there, and they sign up for their times. So that's our setup for right now. We would love to be able to kind of bring in a goalkeeper coach too as well, but we'll have to see how that goes. I didn't really have a lot of time, to do that, but we would love to be able to bring that in, because that would be huge for us too.
Okay. Well, in terms of what happens on the field, how would you describe kind of your style of coaching and team style of play and just that overall culture of the team?
We definitely try to build our attack, through each line that we're playing in, and there are different styles in the conference for sure. I mean, I think when I watch Charleston and Davis and Elkins play, they are very different in the way both those teams play. And we're kind of like in between those two teams with the way that we try to play. Charleston is extremely patient in their build up, and I would say D&E is tries to be very quick and fast in getting down, the field. So we kind of are trying to fall somewhere in between, where we are trying to play fast enough, but a little bit more. Hey, let's keep possession of the ball too, as well. And our main goal is to try to find space, and open up space that we can attack and we can have success when we're going forward in attacking and maintain possession. And we are trying to play a game where we high pressure the other team, counter press when we lose the ball, right away. So, that's our style of play that we're trying to play, out on the field.
Okay. Well, Coach, we've covered a lot of ground here, talked about a lot of different things, and I like to end these all the same way, and that's what didn't we talk about? Is there anything else you want to talk about, whether that's recruiting, the school, team, the process, anything in general? I give you the floor.
All right, thanks. Well, I think one thing I will highlight is that our conference is an extremely competitive conference. We have two teams right now that are basically top 10 in the nation, Charleston and Davidson Elkins. Notre Dame was receiving votes. I think that we'll have three teams that make the NCAA tournament this year, which is a lot, I would say. Having three teams from one conference make the NCAAs is pretty significant, since we get 40 teams in the NCAA tournament. So we're definitely, a competitive conference. That kind of, like you said in the beginning, that notion of Division II schools in West Virginia, you kind of got to throw that out the window, because I think people would be surprised how good of the competition is if they're just kind of thinking about whatever their perception of West Virginia is in soccer. It's a high level of play. That's the reason why I came to Alderson Broaddus, because I knew this was a good conference. And I enjoyed playing in the old WEVAC, which is now a lot of the members of the Mountain East, and I was looking forward to that. And I think that people, as our team gets more and more competitive and we build towards that, it will be a good, exciting, program to be a part of. And so I just mentioned that too as well. And we are definitely a program that I think next year, with a really strong recruiting class, are going to be, much improved. The players that we have been talking to in the recruiting process, I think, are going to give us a good, strong foundation to help meet some of the needs that we saw on this year's team. And so I think we'll be right up there with those teams and competing, which will make for an exciting program. You might be throwing another team into the mix there, in the conference.
Awesome. Well, Coach, we hope that that pans out for you, and you get even more recruits coming in, and keep pushing that program
Thanks.
forward. So best of luck, and we'll talk soon. All right.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. We are excited to be part of Podcast Row at the 2023 United Soccer Coaches Convention in Philadelphia from January 11th to the 15th. The convention is the ultimate event for soccer coaches, administrators, and fans of the beautiful game. Ignite your passion through captivating presentations, on-field demonstrations, exhibits, and networking events for any coach. Whether you are attending alone or bringing the whole coaching staff, there's no better place for soccer coaches to learn, network, and experience the latest trends in soccer education. Visit www.unitedsoccercoachesconvention.org to register. Come join us as we celebrate our passion for the beautiful game.